Good morning. Good morning to everyone. Let me make sure if there's chat. I can pull up chat so I can see y'all. We're doing such a great job. And let's go. So let's check. The Strait of Hormuz says that the U.S. military launched a fresh round of airstrikes, and that over 100 U.S. troops have been injured. So that's 100 casualties, with 2 killed. And Iran has been, hey, what's going on, Buffoon? Good to see you. Yeah, it's been a while. Shout out to you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. I'm just sipping a little coffee. And yeah. Hey, what's going on, Jake? Happy whatever it is, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever day it is. Probably no mod. I'm not really adding moderators right now. We're a politics channel, so usually people that get mod contribute to a conversation. They're sort of engaging other members in chat. They've usually been to more than one stream, and then I'll add moderator to their handle. So it's one way to do it. Cheers. Yeah. How do I set up a poll? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm always interested how we're managing, how we, yeah, I don't know, how we find fulfillment, how we find satisfaction in sort of the ordinary aspects of life, and yeah, without romanticizing everything so much, you know, that's definitely it. So I just set a poll up. I'm gonna go refill my cup of coffee. Good to see you guys. I read chat. Even corn or Limp Biscuit. I would say corn. Corn's a little heavier than Limp Biscuit. So, hey, what's up, Emily Kavanaugh? Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm gonna go refill my coffee. I'll be right back, everybody. Right back. All right. Limp Biscuit. No. Where it's just 1-2 kicking the nads. Yeah. The old romper stomper. The old everybody's a white supremacist line. Yeah, just knowing is so powerful. Just knowing, whoops, I was clicking my own button. Just knowing is such a powerful thing. Hey, what's going on, Underboss? Good to see you. You look like your picture should be on a pouch of pipe tobacco. Hey, that's pretty cool, Orange Diamond. I'd take it. Yeah, what's up, what's up, what's up? And yeah, bringing up conversations. It's one of the interesting things. It's kind of against my values as a Buddhist. I'm a Buddhist atheist, and so it's not that Buddhism is very much about transparency and critical thinking. Um, but then it's also the manner in which we bring up topics. Like sometimes it's just like there's an obvious form of truth, and I don't think anything overrides that. But we can also say that there's forms of attachment that end up living on both sides. So, for example, if you accuse me of saying, well, Nate Duck's talking about the Tate brothers and saying they shouldn't have, brought up these old charges or something. Not that I said that, but if you accuse me of saying something like that, I could respond easily and be like, well, yeah, it's also the case there could have been transparency all the way back, right? And what makes the case not sympathetic is that these people accused of crimes against women are leading like a manosphere red pill sort of space, right? Like this seems to make it especially egregious that your face is everywhere, you're representing values. Yeah, and I do think some utilitarianism applies. Some utilitarianism applies where we're necessarily asking or thinking about other people. What do you think about the neo-libertarian? I don't know if that's a typo or I just don't know that word or what it's a reference to. I just don't know what it is. Iberian variant of classical fascism. I should know that. Cool. So that's up on my screen now. So you're talking about a neo-libertarian fascism. So you want basically some form of philosopher king to enforce it's intense nationalism, anti-communism, anti-capitalism. Well, nationalism is just such a far out value from like our evolutionary thought. I think it's natural to be part of a tribe, but to say that our tribe, our family, our those types of affiliations have to do with made up cultural values and have to do with a nation state is very strange. Accelerationism. I think accelerationism comes up frequently, which means it's a good empirical theory. Accelerationism as a hypothesis or as a theory is both, they're both good, right? You could, and so because it comes up so often, like an example is that, well, it's very strange that when you have energy crises that are in Europe, US close allies, you have energy crises, perhaps just this need to keep producing antiquated forms of fossil fuels in the US. It's strange people complain about like moderately renewable aspects of the economy, like the price of eggs, right? As painful as it is to say as a vegan from an animal liberation standpoint, but it is still pretty painful, right? To hear that this is a conversation, or the cost of new cell phones, but accelerationism has this sort of like almost psychopolitic component to it, where it's not just the competitive forces are working, but you would say from the state level, you're describing society down a layer on the layer of psychology and culture based on some of these overarching forces. So I think accelerationism, as it sort of spreads out and then reels itself in and says that, well, we can't complain endlessly about non-problems, right? Important point. You can't complain endlessly about problems which don't really exist. That's, it's an interesting thing. Like if the price of eggs are going up and then you say, well, savings rates going down or something and things like this, to me, it shapes accelerationism as a force that either perpetuates itself or regulates itself. So, and this is a strength and a weakness, right? When you have a sweeping theory that maybe has evolutionary components, when did accelerationism start, right? Make that argument and then stick with it. It's maybe like a tougher, some people might have a clear answer, but that makes it both ambitious and flexible as well as harder to use. DJ35, hey bro, what's going on? How can I get six-pack abs? If you're asking diet, work out your abs 2 to 3 times a week. Move. And then, yeah, if you're new to the gym, I would say, if you're new to the gym and you're doing, I've got broken glasses here, but you're doing like a bicep curl, just not going overboard, but you can reset your posture mid set. You can make sure that if you need to have a base set for the amount of weight you're lifting, you can do that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, just doing small things. And yeah, you can have a six-pack abs because I guess you incinerate fat. And then you can also just, the aesthetic kind of comes from how you work out, I guess. That's what I would say. As long as evil forces exist, hey, Maria, the world fairness is a problem. Maria Wynn, as long as evil forces exist, world fairness is problematic. Yeah. I mean, they're so loud and daunting. I was thinking about this yesterday. I felt in myself sort of, negative thinking and some of the stuff. And it's like, wow, this pulled me back and I woke up to it again this morning, And so, yeah, it's wild. And so without, having something evil, which is either supernatural or it's just tough to describe, maybe tough to wrap our heads around. I'm lagging. I hope the audio is okay. Nobody said anything. I know I can try to restart the stream in a little bit, but I'm just rolling with it right now. This is just a conversation, talking space type deal. So you're hiring for agents. Cool. What are they doing? Hey, Michael Stevens. Good luck. Yeah. I'd love a little work from home call center job. That'd be awesome. That'd be phenomenal. Hey, Bay Area, what's going on? Yeah, farting, chasing after a caterpillar. Hey, what's going on? That looks like yeah, if you're chilling in the Bay. This is just my old tech brain, old tech sales or something like that. I gotta go get it. I gotta go get after it. Yeah. This is one of the things managers at some workplaces do. And, it's a problem because it does go up to like the board of directors level. Is they say, well, you have to chase something this big, and then you have to chase something this big, and then you have to chase something this big, and then you have to chase something this big. And so eventually you have the dishwasher is chasing the same big thing as the whole company. And it's so very linear, but one of the problems with this is that, if you didn't discover at the right time that people aren't happy, or people are happy, but they don't want to give you money or something, or people are happy, but you're impacting society in a way that's too much. And so it's not congruent with your values there. It's just one of those weird things. So, I ain't chasing no caterpillars. I'm just on this YouTube grind thing. Is people born like or not? What's your view? Yeah, I don't think we have control of our genes and gene expression. So it's a complicated question. Genetics and genomics are two fields of study. I'm obviously not an expert on that topic, Jim. But yeah, I think that if you were to reach into a like a random bag and pull someone out and wonder if this person's going to be like LeBron James maybe, or a doctor. Yeah, it is both genetic and genomics, right? Someone might have genetics and that are very resilient and also produce incredibly high intelligence or something like this. And it's like, cool, we're very attracted to that sort of idea because we like to think that, yeah, there's some code in the universe that determines what we see as someone who's helpful to society or someone who we can aspire to be like. But the reality is most people, we live life, there's environmental stimuli and stresses and pressures and reward structures. And all of these experiences, even the mundane ones between the bus stops, sort of, right? Between two bus stops, you've got the same sort of forces in genetics and genomics, even if you don't notice them, right? When you're flipping through your algorithm, these are environmental stimuli. When you're washing dishes, it's not just the center of the plate, right? If you've ever washed dishes, it's not just the center of the plate, it's the edges of the plate too. So this is what genetics and genomics is kind of about, is saying that, well, it's actually, instead of going around with a camcorder and recording every single human experience, there's something that is sort of closer to the problem we're talking about, which is how humans end up some way. And genetics and genetic expression, RNA expression and genetic expression ends up living there. So can't ever have fairness if the justice system is broken. Yeah, very, very based answer, Stuart Gorham, or very based opinion. That is an answer too. But then who do we include? There's maybe obvious problems like a justice system that is incapable of hearing both sides, or is accused of not managing relationships between different actors in the same way, right? Do poor people get the same trial as rich people? We'd like to think that they do. And then, it's going toward the system of long-term internment. So that's also a kind of a weird, problematic thing. But very procedural. Who do you include in those conversations to identify opportunities or problems? And then what does it actually cost society to have that sort of mindset shift that we can talk about fairness or justice? Someone says, yeah, urban cowboy, I don't think that's based on genetics or genomics. I think that would be common knowledge, right? That's how millennials, we used to talk about this stuff. Urban cowboy said that identity that's not just cis white male, cis identity is a result of some form of trauma. And yeah, again, there's zero evidence for that in the world. Any thoughts on that Human Shields by the Stringini bros? Oh, it's a song? I haven't heard it yet. I don't know what this is about. Yeah. A song for the IDF. Yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty close into nationalism. So I Am Buffoon is bringing up a song that was written for the IDF. And yeah. So when we see music and culture, like, it's very clear to some people, but when you see music and culture, something we normally, it's a form of expression or a form of social expression or a form of expressing an identity, which isn't voting or isn't becoming someone that can hurt other people, right? Some people like that. Some people say don't like that. I don't want any of that. But yeah, so there's always going to be songs that are about some sort of conflict or the military that come out. But yeah, that's usually a sign of nationalism. The reflecting ponds, the garden, all this kind of stuff happening in the U.S. Side of things. Hey, have a good one, Buffoon. Does morality exist, or is it just man-made so the whole system doesn't break down? Good question. Yeah, I mean, I think there's moral positions. It's difficult to say. I would argue that morality is either objective, or we do live in an amoral world that behaves as if it's otherwise. And one of the reasons is that there's game theoretic reasons. There's game theoretic reasons why having a moral system is better. If you don't respect, like, I'll do something stupid on camera. I'll take a small hit of my vape, right? And so to me, it's like, this came from somewhere. The lithium came from somewhere. There's some other use of it. And so if I don't acknowledge all that information about the vape I have in my hand, or that my coffee is either fair trade or it's not fair trade coffee, right? It looks like it's in this little restaurant cup. Makes it taste really yummy. So I think that's an amoral system, but I think you can say, well, amoral systems and having these game theories where it's like, these are recommended best practices and you should be aware of some of this stuff and observe it as you grow, and as you go about your day, you wonder why certain causes exist. I think having like an amoralist position based on either game theory or these other precepts that are about perhaps like virtues and things like this works well. But insisting on that, then if you say, well, this is just always going to be a choice, that doesn't bode well for justice or fairness, in my opinion. Justice doesn't exist. I'm scrolling down just a little bit. We're not that far. Hey, J Money, what's going on? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. J Money is one of our first channel members, and it's good to see you. Yeah, I saw you. I tuned in. I was just quiet in the audience, but I saw you, the bickering over at Async Network. Man, people love to get down on J Money. They don't like your worldview, but hey, I believe it. I believe it. They don't like hearing any of it. The critical thought processes, man. In-group bias is the default. Hey, Chester, good to see you again. Salam alaikum as well. Yeah, in-group has the in-group bias is the default. Anyone that goes against it will get the short end of the stick from everyone else. Yeah, that's possibly true, but there's also irrationality in evolutionary systems where, and so I, not an expert on this topic, but can you imagine why is it the case that voters in rural America vote for politicians that are funded by billionaires and big corporations, right? They ultimately just want money for their company. That's how they win. They want laws for their company, and they say, well, yeah, maybe we'll build some jobs for you, right? We're aligned on values and virtues. It's just not in the process. It's just not right now. It's not this year. It's not this election cycle. And so, it's interesting because we're seeing that we can say, well, if the in-group is based on having conservative values or something, or having progressive values, and so you vote for some guy who knows a union chief or something like that, maybe, but and this is a strong argument because this is about identity then, right? You're talking about very strong forms of identity politics, which do have a lot of research. And it seems like we do actually, maybe we sometimes vote and have biases about our identity, but then there's like Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk is an example that rises up. What does anyone here know or have in common with Elon Musk? It's not much. Hey, thanks, Leafield boy. I appreciate the compliment. Everyone votes for politicians funded by companies and billionaires. The only difference is which ones. Yeah, I mean, that's many politicians. You can see how strongly candidates have voted in the past or would vote on labor issues or issues of social policy. That's kind of a very famous old litmus test or meter of who's going to be successful. If anyone wants to, you guys can double tap your screen to like the stream. I look like Kratos if you ran a charity. Hey, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, God of donations, God of donos. Yeah, God of I don't even know. I don't know which one. Doctors Without Borders or something. When men can compete in women's sports, there is no fairness. When men can compete in women's sports, there's no fairness. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's the government's business. I think if people want to hold that opinion, okay, cool. But I think it's an easier conversation to have in the totality of other topics. When we think about sex or gender identity, and laws or norms or de facto de jure stuff about that, and then what the free market is capable of, I think having that type of conversation, even things like mental health, are relevant. I don't understand why, I'm a huge advocate for men's mental health, but I don't understand why the manosphere gets to have this men's mental health conversation about anything. And then it also is the case that in the manosphere, you can port this over to trans rights, right? Trans rights. And you can say, well, we lost all the context. We lost the context of the original question, So, yeah. But yeah, you've probably heard the arguments. I haven't heard a good reply to the idea that just if we are doing categories, we're doing categories of people. chromosomes are not a clear-cut determinant of anything. And yeah, so do you live in a mountain and do you farm the land? No, I wish I did. People just vote for what they think will give their in-group the best position or what will harm the other groups the most. That's just how everyone works. All people do it. Yeah, I wouldn't piss under someone's door. Oh my God, handsome boy. Thanks, Anna Rivas. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. The Democrat Party is ran by a bunch of race card throwing pieces of trash, says John Bain. Yeah, I mean, there's maybe a lot of decentralization as the Democrats, their strategy instead of taking billionaire money is maybe decentralizing, which I prefer a little bit. Meaning that you don't have Barack Obama can say something, but then you still get Zohran Mamdani running for mayor in New York City. Maybe that's what Barack Obama would have wanted. But maybe he would say that, yeah, there's this other strategy that I would prefer, but it appears this is where the wind's blowing or something like this. So I don't think, I think the conclusion that that national identity does have to do with ethnicity is right next to racism. So I think it's the opposite, actually. I would argue with John and say it's the opposite. I think the MAGA branch of the Republican Party and Republicans that have cheated. Hey, what's going on, Nini? Good to see you. I think the people that have cheated have brought ethnicity and race into a conversation about politics. Yeah, it's unusual for someone who's not a medical professional or doctor to say that someone needs to have treatment for something. So apparently we're getting back to that. I don't know how, but there we are. Yeah, welcome back to the internet, everyone. Thoughts on AI and medicine? Not good enough. Yeah, AI is good for medical imaging and spotting things that are clumsy. Hunting eyes, our hunting, navigating eyes have done for years. Many years, some say, millions of years. Hundreds of thousands and millions of years. Human eyes and human fingers aren't designed to read MRI machines, and yet we do anyways. And so I think AI has good applications. Machine learning as a subset of AI has good applications. And yeah. Hey, what's going on, good guy activism? Shout out to you. You like duck meat? Okay. Thanks. Hey, Hagu Pagu. Sorry if I'm saying the name wrong. Cats taste good as well. Yeah, vegan is better. Vegan is better. Yeah. Ethnicity and race is politics. The moment you have multiple ethnicities or races in a place, then politics becomes an extension of it, as does all of society. Yeah, I mean, the melting pot culture of the United States would imply otherwise, that you have people that are telegraph operators. And so you could have people from many different countries, maybe different languages spoken in the household growing up, maybe both immigrants and working with non-immigrants, working at a telegraph office. And so if you're a telegraph operator or you work in communications, I know it sounds sort of thuddy and duddy, but that this cuts through. It says, well, what is the cultural context? If your job is to unplug a wire and plug it in someplace else, what's the context where race and ethnicity are still about culture and then therefore about the nation state? It doesn't, or about society. Duck is delicious, though. I don't think so. Do you know there's a new MRI using sound and water? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen that. Yeah, we're very in tune to those sort of stimuli, the ones that, especially like when we think of fatty or sweet foods, things that we think of as food, that not only stimulates the senses before, but then it provides that sort of energy and that stimuli afterwards as well. So it's, just as a vegan, I think it's a lot like, well, why not social media, right? If we're constantly putting the same things in two different places, then it sounds like it could be like social media or as social media is. Yeah, I am a vegan. Id, isn't it? If I'd say duck and baked salmon are the best. Yeah. Am I vegan? Yeah. Yeah. Small world on this block of YouTube. Rome, the father of civilization, was a multicultural society in some sense, but the cultures had to be subservient and become Romans. Become Romans. Yeah. Yeah, Marcus Aurelius, the father of Stoicism, modern Stoicism. He wrote a lot about our relationship, how an objective thinking person would think about their relationship to the motherland, the mother state, as well as other cultures, and said it's just logical that you naturally share more values and affinities for the place you live. Um, and so, yeah, he was, as much as he was a Stoic, he was also a political writer. Who knows? Probably not a dogmatist or nationalist, but maybe he had practical leanings and bends. But the philosophy itself, it's a very bold statement that, hey, look, if you're a Stoic, that means that you have to care about. A Stoic you have to care about your motherland, even if you observe causes coming or going to other places. Oh, no worries. Yeah, no worries. I don't take offense to any of that stuff. Um, have you ever seen that guy, Vegan Gains? If so, have an opinion. Hey, what's going on, Aaron? Yeah, I did I don't know Vegan Gains, but we've done a couple panels and stuff. We've been on the same panels and stuff like that, debate stuff. And yeah, he's very open minded. Is one of the things I would say about Vegan Gains is, yeah, he's incredibly open minded. Um, and yeah, he doesn't come off as open-minded. But if you're like, let's say he might not come off as open-minded. He's huge now, but he's huge and buff. He's the one that looks like someone from God of War. But yeah, I would just say that if you're either a vegan or an atheist and you have an argument, you're sitting next to him and you disagree or something, he's very open-minded. So yeah, I like Vegan Gains. Be my personal trainer, bro. Do I smoke bud? Not a big bud person. No, not really. It's recreational here in Arizona. Vegan diet kills a lot of animals. So the crazies that say protect the plants from vegans. Yeah, land use is one of the big topics of exploitation in veganism, land use. And it's political because if you're in the US or you're someplace else, you may know where your food's grown, right? It's a little bit of a misnomer to say people in the US, just how smart human animals are, to say that humans in the US don't know where their food is grown. Well, you certainly do. There's stickers on all the produce. There's stickers on some of the meats. So you kind of do know where your food's grown. But yeah, land use is a big deal. And yeah, but I would need to know more. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. So the context or whatever, context or, where we're going. So the crazies that say protect the plants from the vegans. Yeah, I mean, it's weird to have, I get it as sort of like a defeater argument, when people say, well, if you're a vegan, you're still taking life, because that's true. And I would point to say, well, just to kind of hone that point in, before you explode it up and throw it in my face or something, there are vegans that believe in even lower harm veganism, right? Lower harm veganism, finding ways to put back into the systems they take from, stuff like that. So I mean, it's a very strange philosophy around food in some ways, but it's also a very moral and sort of logical way to sort of think about taking something. I think it's sort of a moral sense. And so yeah. I mean, if someone says you got to protect the plants from me, my main argument would be like, well, I mean, my actual reply is the fact that I don't see as much. I don't see a lot of like moral choices around the food supply and stuff like that. That's not my problem, right? It's not my problem that I perceive a problem in some way, and that's actually what the problem's kind of like, you know. Thoughts on AI and HR marketing and social media. Hey, Peter, why don't we see massive layoffs? Yeah, because there's still the need. If you have these AI systems you have to maintain, and then you have customer relationships, and then you have ultimately you have to get stuff out in front of customers. Um, you're still managing things at interaction points. You still have to manage before and after a transaction. So AI doesn't, the scary part for some people is that AI can possibly manage the full transaction life cycle, right? Instead of somebody who impulsively wants to buy a watch, or their company just magically sprouted up to become an AI or HR company and now wants to use AI. Yeah, I think it's a little closer to the fact that AI isn't designed to solve for everything. It's an automation suite, sort of, can do a little bit more. Um, but yeah, where is it doing, for whom, and for what, for whom, for what? People will vote to give their race and ethnicity power. Wow, that's a very bold statement. Yeah, that's a bold statement. I'm sure that we could see clear issues, clear times during segregation in the Jim Crow era where Black politicians lost because of race. I'm sure that that is a thing in the United States. But I'd be a little bit skeptical of saying that, well, white people just vote for white people is a law of the universe. It's a law of society. I don't see that as having sort of that natural law characteristic to it, meaning that, yeah, it's natural philosophy. It's like a law in physics, but it's working in society. I don't see it that way. I don't know how that would be the case. Yeah, and there's this important term, sectarian. Sectarian is one of these terms. When we hear sectarian divides, a lot of the times it has to do with political sects, political sectioning off society based on, and sometimes that does have to do, oftentimes, with religion or ethnicity. But that's different, right? Because you're supporting an alternative political structure, right? An alternative political structure. You're not operating in a democracy. So that's where I disagree. Very important distinction. If somebody is revolutionary, they say, I'm Marxist, I'm ANCAP libertarian, we need a revolt. You're not operating in a democratic capacity. So very important. Do you want to do a vegan debate? I don't want to necessarily. Yeah, I would recommend people, you can go to like Reddit. The Reddit vegan forums are okay. There's some good information and stuff on there. There's people that want to be actually kind and helpful. And there's forums for like debating, debate a vegan, ask a vegan. So I think those things actually do pretty well when we write them down. If people are willing to take a second and read something that someone like actually thought about before they posted it. Israel has beef with Rome. Do they? I haven't heard that, Underboss. I haven't heard about the Rome beef. I got to scroll down a little bit. Hey, Jesse, shout out everybody's. Let's just going to delete some of the spam that I don't know what it is. And yeah. And you guys can always tag me at DucksY. If you guys tag me at DucksY, capital D, capital Y, I'll respond to your comment. You guys can also send super chats, gem gifts, no obligation. Those things are so helpful to me, though. Super helpful. So I'm super grateful, though, too. What do I think of psychics? Yeah, it's cool. I think however people access wisdom or access some version of the world is cool. I think it's also dangerous. It can be dangerous for probably the same reasons, maybe not really, but like, yeah, I don't think someone in crisis should be going to a psychic necessarily. You know. Have you read much about exploitation in cotton farming, Aaron? I haven't read that much about that. My where I come in, I'm not like on that exactly, but I also worry about economic exploitation and it seems like we're just going to be selling secondhand factory equipment to different countries and stuff like this. And as much as we can say, well, this is stuff human society does and it's competitive, it makes money, it adds jobs, it's good production to have manufacturing. We also have to be realistic about how that relates to the rest of the economy. Hey, Sam Gupta, good to see you. Donald Trump should ban vegans. There's been deaths. What are your thoughts? Yeah, that's a really, really extreme position. That's a very, very extreme position. Don't primates mainly get protein from bugs? Yeah, no clue. Forcing our beliefs on others have not worked well in history. Yep. Yeah, that's a good answer. So JDOS, I would just go read some of those older comments. I think that's a good answer. Forcing your beliefs on others hasn't worked well for a lot. Hey, what's going on, Almost High? Greetings to you, valiant warrior of light. Hey, thanks, Alex or Alexi. I appreciate it. Growing cotton at home is illegal. Is it really? I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, Underboss is a Southern boy, if I remember correctly. So Underboss has some of that know-how and maybe doesn't want no government telling you what to do with it, all. Illegal just means I'm armed in doing it. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, there's the amoralist position. Yeah. I don't think amoralism has to do with force because force is a minority part of our lives, and not all force, I think, is about exerting violence on another person. Don't lions play fight? Lions play hunt, and lions are a very extreme example of like an apex predator. Oh, thanks so much. 5 huge Aussie dollars. And the third way in general, that's a good question. I don't know. This is another one I'll have to look up. Julius Eve. I can talk about neo-fascist ideologies were first described in Western Europe. Is this right? This is post Second World War, and represented factionalism within the Nazi Party, and then was revived. This is a form of fascism that was revived in the 1970s and 80s by groups such as Italy's Terza Posizione. Communitarian or nationalist movements. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, a total seeing like a thud, a total rejection of policies. Usually, this represents policy issues that haven't been addressed, and so we can say that this is either foundational or it is complex. Meaning that there's complex, meaning that the variables you would use to study it exist in large systems, maybe even evolutionary systems. And it could be both, right? So generally when we see people behaving in some way, right, like it's not like a cult, and a lot of people are surprised because you say, well, MAGA behaves and operates and sounds like a cult sometimes. So do like dogmatic people, in my opinion, that watch Rachel Maddow. You're not a cult. You can think for yourself. Someone can kind of nudge you and say, see things from a different angle. You can always do that with people, right? Nudge people and say, hey, see this from a different angle, please. And yeah. So with this third wave anti-establishment, ultranational roots, usually it's based on some comfortable lie, like replacing God with this sense of, instead of having God go with you to get Starbucks coffee, you're in Australia, I think. But like if you're in Europe and you're traveling to a cafe or something like this, instead of having God or society go with you to get this coffee, you have some fake mythology of history, and you wonder if good Germans or good Italians are brewing your coffee and profiting from it. Um, and so I think it's like almost this anti-evolutionary force that seems to decelerate a little bit. But that would be my long answer. Um, I'm not religious. I could be. I have an alternate persona called Evo Saved. Yeah, my alternate persona is thanks again for the huge $5. My alternate persona is Evo Saved. Um, yeah. Hey Almond, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, but thanks, Cameron. I appreciate it. Um, Say I'm a Barbie girl in a world, and I'll subscribe. I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. We talk about politics. I'm uneducated in some political theory. I'm a Barbie girl. Is this geopolitics? Or is it philosophy? Or is it psychology? That's as far as I can go because I'm a Barbie girl. Spiritual, yeah, I would say spiritual for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a time and place for us to take meaning, to kind of defend our views, but also defend our beliefs. But it's so hard to get into beliefs even. And so for people that are into like tarot readings or spiritual guides, you know, I just think it's one of those things where I'm all about causation, about scholastic evidence-based stuff. And also, if somebody doesn't feel obligated, they're rushing in to make everything meaningful in their life right now. I think it can be helpful to have someone that cares about you, that is talking to you about something, just that caring aspect. So the things, who knows? Maybe tarot is like accelerationism and this third way of fascism, in that it's actually meant to pull back some of the antisocial forces that we have. Who knows? The things people do for views. Yeah, yeah. Hey, that wasn't a bad one, right? They weren't asking me to twerk or whatever it was. You know, if somebody was asking me to twerk, I might see it or do it differently. I figure when you die, it's just like before you were born, a lack of consciousness. Yeah, maybe. That's just a niche to reach people, the tarot for me, but I stopped doing it. I might do it again. Okay. Cool. Cool. Yeah, however you find success doing it. Um, I'll be right back, guys. I'll be right back again. If it All right, maybe I'll look up a little more on this, on Cameron's point here. Can do a quick Google search of the person, Julius Evola. Julio Cesar Andrea Evola was a far-right philosopher and writer. He wrote books such as The Revolt Against the Modern World, Ride the Tiger, Eros and the Mysteries of Love, The Hermetic Tradition, Reen Junon, A Teacher for Modern Times, and Men Among the Ruins. So it looks like he did a lot of stuff in his real life toward fascism and things like this. Is there any non-liberal? I base my non-liberal or even contra-liberal or anti-liberal views mostly still on Thomas Hobbes. I'm not aware of like a great neo-Hobbesian thinker. I mean, Carl Schmitt, Hans Morgenthau. I mean, Robert Nozick is called neo-Hobbesian. Yeah, there's some of these when people think in terms of like the invisible hand, like I guess that's sort of it's taking cues from Hobbes is saying, well, there's some causes that we are very intimately aware with because they're because of empiricism, right? Because we're either in a material or an empiricist world, and in that modality, you can understand experience, you can observe patterns, and you can understand competition and fear, right? Not Mr. Sunny Side Up necessarily, not necessarily sunny side up in the realm of politics. And so when we talk about an invisible hand, it's sort of talking about this additive process of economy and economics and trade, and it's additive toward individuals, right? Instead of the economic system. That's the sum total of things. But yeah, but when you think of violence and anarchy, that invisible hand is still operating. So it almost replaces some elements of the state of nature. Yeah, but I haven't been, Kant shared a lot of harsh truths about Kant's Perpetual Peace essay. I still think is not necessary. It's pro-democracy in that it restates. I believe Kant restates the moral grounding in having sort of our phenomenal realm, our deontological sort of leanings being based in humanity and agency and things like this. And as this comes up and begins competing, Kant is very pessimistic about democracy. Without stating, in any educated society where you're equipping leaders to listen to the voice of the people and then act as a result. So he does attribute violence back down to culture and society and perpetual peace. Then, yeah, it's just one of those things, I don't know. What makes freedom an ideology worth pursuing? Yeah, maybe it's because the state of bondage is not a permanent one. And we can look at something like the ideology of feminism, which takes hold and redefines systemic terms. And, systemic terms, things, any structural terms that are about oppression, feminism is capable of redefining and working in the same systems from a position of being under-leveraged or weakness. So it rises to the level of praxis. And so if you say, well, what's the trampoline or lever? ideologues would say, well, it's just always the case that you're going to see these forces. So why wouldn't you want inclusion in a political process? Or why wouldn't you want to see people being better represented? But then again, if you actually talk to someone who is an ideologue or is doing identity politics via ideology or vice versa, they'll just tell you, well, these are moral values, right? These are moral values and problems. And so, of course, you have motivation to go solve them. And you're always going to. You're always going to have that motivation. Hey, yeah, I don't think anyone should be shamed for their views. Their views. 70% say the world is not a place with fairness today. 30% say yes. Hey, good on the 30%. I hope. Enlightened philosophy or the Kantian pure idealist personally. Oh, cool. Cool. Yeah, I really like, I feel like Enlightenment philosophy is, my opinion of it is it's very broken up. It's very broken up into conclusions and being distinguished. And so I think Enlightenment phenomenology, German idealism, and the conclusions that are drawn from it are very approachable, even if they're not accurate, right? You would probably have too many criticisms that I would be very difficult for me to overcome to sort of preserve or maintain those older philosophies, but they're still very cool, I think. Yeah, Protestantism, sort of this new brand of Christianity, um, that puts moral questions above the church, I guess. I don't know. So is it a dialect? Is it dialectical? Um, do you require, at the end of the day, do you require something that can reach back into metaphysics that ultimately ties it to Protestantism? I don't know. That's like a 10-ton question. There's any other philosophers here that want to weigh in, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Um, I try to love everyone. I try to I'm trying to try to love everyone. That's the honest answer. Yeah, that's the honest answer. Trying to try. Yeah, keeping them out. Keep them out. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's cool. I went to a Catholic school, so I would have been on the other side. But yeah, Catholic schools were against Christian schools and just in a different, I think probably a different sense than in Ireland. Cynicism. um, Cynicism, I'll stay in political theory mode. Cynicism is more game theoretic than it is philosophically based. Um, and it's based on the probability that every philosophy is wrong. And so if every philosophy is wrong, no, that doesn't make you a libertarian, because then you're saying you know something in philosophy that can be right. And so cynicism says, well, no, you're not a progressive, you're not a libertarian. You just haven't rejected those ideas to see what else exists. Does anything else exist? I don't know. Probably not. You know, um, when you're underneath it, you might get a better view of whatever it's like, or what it is. But you know, I think cynicism is a bit like cynicism reminds me a little bit of John Stuart Mill and his insistence on liberal moral values. And cynicism reminds me a little bit of uh, maybe Rousseau a little bit. Rousseau says that we don't have that much to go on in the state of nature by assumption. You can read and say the state of nature is just it's the exactly the place maybe you think it's going to be when you're going through it. And yeah, so cynicism's fascinating though. Yeah. Do meat eating animals who only eat meat have the same values like cows who only eat grass or drink milk? Yeah, all cows are different beings than we are. All cows are different beings than we are, and so we pitch in to systems which impact things very immediately and directly, not indirectly. Um, so so my coffee's killing maybe meat eaters, maybe grass eaters, but that's because it's a factory farm and I don't know. This is grown at a factory and I don't know what it is. It's just coffee. It's restaurant coffee. Uh, so Cameron, you may take a line. You may take a line that suggests that even very well-known thinkers like Machiavelli, if Machiavelli speaks in dual terms or speaks of vertical causation, God or fate or fortune causing something, and our will just having this sort of randomness, so it becomes like a fortune or something. But you would say that the material circumstances are actually dominated, right? If you're an idealist, we might say that the material stance is actually dominated by the idealized stance. That yeah, there's if everything is idealized, these aren't supernatural causes. Failing to describe something or describing it accurately as fortune and fate, you need to go on a little further. And so for Kant, it's about finding these precepts. For Kant, it's about taking empiricism or empirical truth honestly and basing human psychology on this where we're talking about it. And so with Protestantism, coming from this is still it's an educated or erudite form of that's capable of perhaps spreading out. I don't know. That could be a Hegelian dialectic instead of like a big social change. A Hegelian dialectic could be like, well, if Christianity is competing in the Western European space and it's resource rich, it's more hygienic, and so it's going to be successful, you need a form of Christianity that's capable of embracing more ideas and embracing ideas in a way which more tightly comports to the conditions of that society. And so that's not just any form of idealism. It's not just any form of existentialism, but it's a form of Christianity and culture becoming dominated by the ability to embrace different ideas and to not hold to things as religious truths, not hold to like religious precepts as being mandates as much. Those are always going to have opposition because they're limiting that movement. Oh, cool. Hey, Ahmed. Hey, Ahmed. Good to see you. Could be. Do you believe anything happened after death, or do you think it just ends and you stop existing? Um, um, yeah, it's a soul sleep, I guess. Soul sleep. No idea. Yeah, atheism would take the point that death doesn't cause anything supernatural, so it's exactly what you think would happen. What happened? What literally happens after you die? That would be an atheistic point. Yeah, good point. Hey, Ahmed. Yeah, yeah. I mean, in the Western Enlightenment, if you include liberal values, it's we might see ideas like, well, Protestantism thrived in liberal economies, it ditched mercantilism, and so it seems like there's a larger, more powerful force which is about consumption. It's about consumption and resource allocation. Um, and so, I think saying that society had to evolve to embrace more ideas and Christianity was the center of civil society is a structural or constructivist. It's sort of this structural approach saying that, well, you cannot just endlessly have cross-border Catholic wars, and you cannot endlessly have systems that are going across the border, and so you get Westphalian states before you get Protestantism, and the reason the Catholics and Orthodox kill each other is because they couldn't embody that, they couldn't get that through their head. But then you get Protestantism, and so what's the actual role of Protestantism? What Protestantism actually did? Quakers in the United States, Calvinists in the United States, to some extent, Quakers, Protestants in the U.S. Doubled down and bet on social contract theory, bet on cultural relativism, and things like this. Hey, Living Dead Girl, good morning. Yeah, shout out to you. It's all the sciences, triple science, double science, triple up, triple up, triple up. Yeah, welcome to the stream, everybody. I'm just having a couple cups of coffee, saying what's up. If you guys want to send some donations, those are hugely helpful, especially as we get toward the end of the month. It's a great time for me, and you guys know I appreciate it. I'm saying that the foundation of the Enlightenment philosophy was Protestantism. That's just a port. I think the timing is, unless if that's your idea, that's maybe good, but it seems to me the timeline is off for that. What was his name? Yeah, Martin Luther in 1517. Copernicus is one of the big ones that in political science schools you'll learn about the Copernican revolution. And so this was arguably just as influential as Protestantism, and it was 1543, and it proposed a heliocentric model. So it said that your cosmology, your science, your teachings have to be based around this idea that Earth, where we live, is just like every other planet. There is not some God sphere, it's just an Earth sphere. Yeah, so the Copernican revolution, some could, let's ask. He lived during the Renaissance. So this is the Renaissance era. Yeah. But the scientific revolution and then the age of reason in the 18th century. Oh my gosh, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. That's a very generous donation. Appreciate it hugely. Huge, huge, huge. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, duck money. Thank you. Um, yeah. And so the scientific revolution led to positivism in social science in some sense, and a scientific study, a positive study of governments and things like this. But yeah, just random tidbits. Don't hate me because you're, yeah, hey, if you're going to speak in racialized language, man, racialized language or ethnicity, bro, you're bringing those ones on. You're bringing those ones on. Appreciate it. Huge appreciate it. I always wondered how can any religion claim to be true unless it was the first one? Yeah, primitive, yeah, brain thoughts turning into religious beliefs, religious connotations. Liberal individualism is just historic individualism. Yeah, I'm not, yeah, I don't know if I'm equipped to tackle all of that. Liberal individualism is distinct from historic individualism. Yeah. Um, so my awareness is that you start with the empiricist tradition of Hobbes, and as this evolves, you get theorists, jurists, philosophers. Um, all are basically writing about this culturally relative institution, but it emerges it emerges the structure of society emerges from individuals. Um, and yeah, and you know, uh, Rousseau is an example of a, I don't know how, Cameron, you would handle like a Rousseau who famously was Catholic, famously wrote about natural religion. He wrote about finding religion in nature. So, it doesn't sound, you might say, well, this is Protestantism, but how would one figure some forms, see. Rousseau was Catholic, right? Oh, he was raised a Calvinist. Oh, Protestant. He was a Protestant. Yeah. Embracing a deist worldview. Yeah. Yeah, probably, maybe to some extent, but I think it's not my view. I think my arguments would center around this idea that I think it would be difficult to hang on to what is maintained just by Protestantism. Religion is very rarely used as the only sort of driving force of social change or Hegelian dialectics. Um, the sense in which it's true changes can evolve. Um, this is going to beat me up too. Is this a So it talks about the Enlightenment, the American founding, and the Industrial Revolution, moral worth, political freedom, and economic autonomy. Classical liberalism differs from modern political thought. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to. Typically, classical liberalism does put a little bit of moral worth in a lot of the law. A little bit of moral worth in a lot of the law. It pulls from a little bit of metaphysics. That's kind of the recipe. That's kind of one of the recipes of classical liberalism, is you can pull from a little bit of the metaphysics, you can use a lot of the law, their procedure, and then you can have a little bit of the moral worth, and you usually end up with something that looks like classical liberalism. Hegel was developing a Protestant version of the city of God. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be familiar or as aware of that as the dominant interpretation of Hegel, or why that's, if Hegel ultimately gets his day, he gets his day in the public view, and it's because of dialectics, it's because of his his concepts of absoluteness, um, and and his sort of idealism, his sort of disregard for and to some extent disregard immediately for experience and language. I don't know what relevance him having some views in some sense would be. Get lost in the weeds. Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not necessarily always worth it to miss the core argument or the core supporting evidence. It's like looking at another to tell you who you are. Bro, you're a strong guy with a great mindset. Hope we have a leader like you to join our gay community. Cool. Yeah, shout out to you. Shout out to you. 71% say that there's not fairness in the world. 29% say, yes, there is fairness in the world today. Yes, there is fairness. So that's where we on. That's where we on one, bro. I don't identify as gay. No, I don't. I don't. I look messed up. I don't know why that would be, but yeah. Yeah. I don't really have a strong sexual identity to pull from. So do I believe fairness exists? Yeah, I think what we mean by fairness exists. What we mean by fairness exists. I think maybe this is my bias because I do come from some political thought, some political theory that that constructed concepts we would only use in constructivism work a little better because they're based on some facet of reality and can be discussed more. But that's not necessarily all inclusive, right? So that's an important term, is that if I say creation is a universal term, and what is creation? Or I say that being omnipresent or eternal it's a supernatural term, but it's a concept as well, right? It can be part of ontology or it can be a concept. Well, fairness, I can say, well, fairness probably exists between these 2 points. It's a little more grounded. So I think it's a little better. I just think you can, oh, thanks. Hey, thanks so much for the chili. Very generous gift. Appreciate that. Thank you. Fairness in circumstances certainly doesn't exist. Good to see you, Bad Eye Crazy. Hey, we got 2 chilies in chat. Thank you guys. Breaking the gift seal. Breaking the gift seal is very, very helpful. Very cool, you guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, stay around for your prize. Stay around for your prize for sure. Depends on what you seek. If you want what cannot be, then you will be sorely disappointed. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Or if we're not living in the now, right? Buddhism would say you should seek what doesn't exist. Maybe if there's a moral or a cosmological push toward that, there's a moral or cosmological draw. Maybe you should seek something like justice or dignity or fairness or understanding or compassion, even if it doesn't exist everywhere. But if you're not living in the now while you're addressing this, then that's problematic. You have to be living in the now while you're addressing these things. I would say epic, that's determined too by the seer. Your cat's fighting Donkey Kong. I don't know what that I don't even know what that means, bro. Bro, I don't even know what it means. Hey JDOS. Hey JDOS. You're asking what I think of yeah, I think sexual expression is someone else's business, right? I'm not promiscuous like that necessarily. in terms of talking about my own view of different sexual experiences people are allowed to have. Not totally. So I could be wrong about that, but yeah. Well, when the mind is healthy, we take care of each other when we can, and the deluded are easy to play for their trinkets. Yeah, good point. Good point. Fair point. Yeah, healthy minds are great. Healthy minds are great. And yeah, healthy minds that can kind of, whatever, be a little bit about that change they want to be, being a little bit about, not self-serving, not creating sort of these reverse things because we see something so clearly, so easy to hyper focus on it that we go past another possible world. We go past another solution. We go past something that is not of us. I still think I'd stick to my last answer I gave earlier in the stream. You're asking about inclusion in sports, and I would say, yeah, if you want to have that conversation, don't trust your eyes so much, right? Why don't you use your eyes, ears, hands? Go talk about big energy, right? Even use the term some people don't like using. Go talk about oil consumption. Go talk about disposable societies. Go talk about exploitation with your eyes, hands, and ears. And yeah, start with the perspective of dignity. Yeah, start with the perspective of dignity. That's one of the best things that a person can do. Trans are the deluded. Trans are the deluded. Yeah, that seems to go against some of the values you voiced earlier in the chat, Epic. Epic, yeah. I thought your name was Eric, sorry, but that seems to go against some of the views you had previously voiced in the chat. I do believe in aliens, guys. Yeah, who knows? Maybe there are aliens and we're just part of an alien arc that we don't know it yet. Does fairness exist in primacy to the law? Could you explain how it exists in relationship to some object? Yeah, well, I would say that it isn't. Yeah, it sounds very strange to say abstract things are real, but it also sounds strange to say that, well, we talk about property law or whatever it is strictly in terms of we can talk about it in terms of the economic or political or socio-political or socioeconomic sense is maybe the strongest. And so when we say, well, our language is about something, when we say something is mine, that's meaningful. It means a certain relationship in a world. And so I think having a snow globe around something like fairness, having a snow globe around something like justice, or a snow globe around something like fairness, saying, well, justice isn't meant to apply to things in other planets, but justice seems like it can apply to other life on Earth. That's what I would mean by that. If it exists, it exists in relation to perhaps many objects. And yeah, and I'd point out, I think the unfairness of the question is that if we're thinking in terms of actual objects, sure, how objects are defined and what they can be, either essentially or modally. Yeah, I mean, just one of the reasons I'd be skeptical of the approach or the speed of it, even though it's helpful, right? It's very helpful. But one of the reasons I'd be skeptical of that is that, yeah, we talk about particles or systems or events as an object, right? There's point objects in the universe that we don't observe. And so saying that, well, even a hamburger doesn't relate to an object, not really. We can say is a hamburger an object? Maybe not really though, right? A hamburger is a concept, but we don't say a hamburger doesn't exist normally. What's up, nonsense physics? Yeah, and so saying that we have relationships up to the level of the books that we write laws in, and then what they're commonly held to mean, and then why those things seem to come to life in a system. Those can all be things about like something like human nature. Is human nature a concept? Not really. Human nature seems like it supervenes alongside or within domains like biology or physiology, or genetics or genomics. So human nature seems like it's something. Wiped out the dinosaurs. The aliens are more advanced than we are, ding dong. They just think we're cringe. Hey, I hope so, Tripster. I'm ready to give myself, all of myself, over to aliens instead of God. Yeah. I'm not all here for my lord. I'm all here for the aliens. I'm sick of being myself. Man. Yeah, life's too hard. Yeah. Life's good. I'm just kidding. I was just kidding. Nature is as nature does. No argument can be made against it. I don't know what you're talking about, Epic, but please be careful with the language in chat. Thank you. Evolution is so piss poor at its job that whales still have leg bones. Cyber baddies. Yeah. Yeah, we're not that kind of tube. We're not that kind of turb. Does biology also exist in the same way fairness seems to exist based on your answer? Yeah. Well, biology would probably like to suppose a natural or material worldview, and you would have to go through constructivism. You'd have to go through like almost this interpretation layer, which may depend on some form of materialism, similar to biology in a sense, right? But biology, because it's empirical, you might say, well, it seems more logical that it's going to go with the metaphysics of cosmology. It's going to go with cosmological metaphysics, and that's how if you can modally know something, you justify why it's not that. You justify it at the end. At the end, that's what you're seeking to do. And in constructivism, you might just say materialism. So maybe it's the same sense where social science is strong enough and is meant to be law-like enough, law-giving or law-bearing enough that we do the same type of thing. But who knows? That's kind of my worldview. I'm not actually sure about that. Chris Ramsey, I haven't M4P, M4. Yeah, I haven't Therian. I haven't seen Chris Ramsey. I don't know who he is. Or he or she. Evolution is a scientific theory with mountains convincing evidence. Yeah. Yeah. The theory of evolution refers to how evolution happens. We already know evolution does happen. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's theory in the sense that there's just no other game in town, right? There isn't a biological paradigm that exists that is absent evolution. There's no explanation that's justified that works. There's no explanation exists, or the belief thereto is justified enough that doesn't include evolution and talks about things like speciation, or defines it in a different way. Modern evolution, I believe, manages for a lot of that stuff. I believe it does. Evolution and creationism aren't at odds. That's a good point. It's a good point, that evolution doesn't require an argument for abiogenesis, because we see evolution happening today in real time in labs, and we see evolution happening in studies that humans can do in human scales. So it happens in a consistent way when you actually break down more fundamental artifacts. One thing I would point you to, and this might be a Bayesian point, right? So we're talking about probability. If we're talking about a Bayesian point would be that, well, it was mitosis. Mitosis was first discovered in 1875 and 1878. So the recency of some very critical biological functions that you need to explain evolution, this does cast out that the theory of creationism, right? If evolution is a theory, creationism is a theory. saying that we have more recent, stronger evidence of evolution seems like it would serve to dominate a theory of creationism. Even though you can still have a justified belief, we might say in philosophy, well, it's probably the case evolution is true, and it's probably the case that it seems to be the case evolution is a stronger theory, but that doesn't mean that the justifications for beliefs that come from evolution or creationism have even been addressed in the first place. We haven't even started addressing those things. Hey, what up, Adam? Oh, I got to scroll down a little bit. Evolution is real, but dinosaurs are a hoax. Ah, come on with it. Dinosaurs are the coolest. I like dinosaurs. If God exists, a few things were consciously taken from us by God to awaken us to become aware and self-sustaining. Yeah, so they say and so they speak, right? We're supposed to be self-sustaining. Yeah. Oi. Where does homosexuality come from? Well, homosexuality, as you might be describing it, is it's coming from social definitions primary, and it may just stop there, right? Saying heterosexuality is the same exact thing, because we're usually not talking about any pair bonding behavior, or you say that's all we're talking about. Well, not really, right? Not really. There's people that can say I'm heterosexual or homosexual, and they say it, and they only are talking about being monogamous and which identified sex or gender they're attracted to. Creation is a theory. A theory is the highest attainment in science, which is a comprehensive explanation verified by empirical observations. My understanding is many arguments from creation are God of the gaps. It should be managed by the God of the gaps. So I don't know how it's a theory if there's equal parts or more so Christian scientists who would say, well, yeah, you can be a deist and you're still maybe you hold skepticism and a belief in a watchmaker who set up the watch and now the watch is running, but you're also talking about an indeterministic universe. And so when you say creation is a theory on the same level, it seems like you're fitting God in there. It doesn't seem like you're winning on any of it. Hey, what's going on, Steve? Good to see you. Happy day to you. Do I believe that material exists in the same way that fairness does? No, because I don't think fairness. I think material exists on at least a supervening manifold. Materials. A manifold would supervene on material. Particles would supervene on material. If a particle is the material, it would, maybe it's natural law or mathematical something or another. And fairness doesn't require the same thing. So that's a modal approach. That would be a modal, saying that the modality, the types of things that you know in the first place before you even get into modal logic, right? That knowing or the know strength is you would know those things exist, but you wouldn't know how they relate to fairness or if they do. Do you think silicon-based life would be like, and it's unlikely that it would, because you could do cognitive science, you could do behavioral sciences, you could do just like surveys of popular opinions, you could look at how big systems work and are funded, and you could say, well, fairness is still a topic that's like these, it's not like a topic like physics. What do you think silicon-based life would be like compared to carbon-based? I don't know. It has no resemblance to the human being. Silicon-based life would be like compared to carbon-based life. No idea. I think gaseous forms of life would be the most interesting. What are the properties of silica or silicone? Oh, shoot, Steve. I'm sorry to hear about that. That's what you meant. Hey, I'm sorry about that. Man, yeah, lots of love to you. Lots of love to Steve. Steve's very quickly become one of our yeah, one of our favorite people on the channel. So yeah, we can do more politics here if you guys want to. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Um, yeah, we can do more politics here. Hey, Kieran, good to see you. Shout out to you. Yeah, what's up? Hopefully everybody's doing good today. Yeah, just hanging out here on my end and having a good day, guys. We're having a good day. I'm gonna keep the stream going for a little bit. I'm gonna go grab one more small little half cup of coffee, and I'll see you guys back in just a minute here. All right, what's up? What's up? We looking stuff up. Donuts. I'm down to do it. Let's do it, fam. Let's do it, crew. Oh, I think we could do it. I think we should do it. Oh, man. Hey, thanks so much for the star, guys. Yeah, if you guys want to send any gym gifts, super chats, that stuff's hugely appreciated. Become a channel member. Join the Duck Gang. Hey, yo, we're going to make sure you guys are a member of Duck Pond. Shout out. Thank you so much. We got another star coming in from Almost High. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Appreciate it so much. I don't know which war you're talking about. There's a bunch of wars going on. A friend in the Ukraine, and he's busy for the time being, so I took over his game set for a while. He doesn't know when the war will end there. Yeah, yeah. I mean, wishing for peace. There's a huge toll taken out on soldiers as well as the people, the victims of war. So, a pivot point to purpose. Um, No, I think saying that, I think it can create an illusion. I think saying that you're a person of violence and a person capable of judging and exerting violence as only you can, and capable of doing that in a team environment, a team or a tribal environment. I think that creates a justification for more violence, not less. Um, and so, what does that say at the end? It says that, well, becoming a person of violence teaches you a ton of skills, but none of those skills are about the violence necessarily. You can make it about that. Maybe that's incorrect, but what do you want? What do you actually want? There's those meme videos that they ask here in the United States. I don't know where everybody here is from. I know Cameron's from in Australia, I believe. We've got was that British House of Mirrors Tarots in Britain. I think I remember. Yeah, you said you're in Britain before. I remember that as well. Then yeah, it's we have the meme videos of why did you join the army, or and you're supposed to give like a funny answer or something like that. So whatever. You're in the UK, yeah, United Kingdom. Cheers. Hey, conservatism ain't that bad. It's just bad when I think it needs to be a totality. In this list, which one no longer exists in the same way as the last: particles, atoms, matter, refrigerator, the art of refrigeration, the virtue of being a good refrigerator. Yeah, it would be atoms, right? Atoms would be the first one. Yeah. Yeah, so atomic law is a useful convention, but it's an estimation still. And we only see some quantum properties, not all quantum properties, applying to atoms. I believe atoms, as we study atomic theory, always have a weight. And so that's one example that we're not talking about like the number of electron volts of a particle, from my understanding. I don't know, I could be wrong. Could be incorrect about that, but yeah. Oops. Yeah. If I missed something on that, let me know, but I don't think I did. Yeah, but in another sense, we signify particles that aren't in a way that particles may exist. Right? Particles is sort of part of, one way to signify particles is they're a phenomenon, phenomenon that's part of, creating space-time manifolds. The vacuum energy of space exists in the same sense particles do, basically, or it doesn't. It's all part of a wave function collapsing. Wave functions collapse in certain ways. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but we can talk about particles. You can talk about like a CERN experiment, and that's also an accurate way to say, well, hey, this is a scientific truth. It's probably about natural law. It's pretty close. Natural law, nature doesn't have to exist in the way we say it does, but nature doesn't have to exist, at all. So you think primary reality is subatomic physicals and all is constructed upwards. Yeah, I don't know. That's one way of stating it. That is one way of stating it, but I wouldn't be sure. If you force me to ask if I'm a naturalist, do I think naturalism? I think naturalism is what most knowledge is about. I don't think I would disagree with a Dan Dennett or a Patricia Churchland that much. But I could also reject that nature is existing and real, like we often talk about it as. I wouldn't flatten. I wouldn't take too much to, from it. It doesn't mean that much, you know? Thank you, nonsense physics. If Donald Trump were to take over the world and the only way was to kiss him, would I kiss? Yeah, I would kiss Donald Trump anyways. I would say, I love you, brother. I'd say, hey, I hope you feel loved. None of this politics stuff is going to work out for any of us, but I love you. Yeah, observations collapse a wave state. Observations should be collapsing a wave function. But I don't know much more about it than that. Yeah. Me and Cameron are like two cool Orthodox guys, right? Me and Cameron are like two Orthodox guys in the way we manage our words and stuff. But yeah, primary reality. I would say it is the thing which nothing supervenes on. Nothing supervenes on a primary reality. So it's fundamental in some sense, which may not be what reality is like. There may be no fundamental nature to reality, which is an important point. Yeah. I mean, just how weird the universe is if Schrodinger works with a giant boron gas tank or something like this, that's how weird quantum physics and the quantum universe is that we would never think that something like the tank of gas in our car is a participant in the universe. We would think we're just burning fuel or burning energy. And it turns out it's not like that at all. Turns out physics isn't like that at all. Yeah. Physics is not like that at all. Could be wrong, could be right. Guys, if you guys are looking for something to do, check out my most recent short. Was very popular in terms of likes to views. I think it was well done. If you guys want to learn a little bit about the war in Iran or hear an opinion about it, you can go check the most recent short. What's your say on the observer theory? I'm not entitled to a say non-Valorant. I'm not a physicist. If I had to take a stab or a guess at it, I think the physics of the observer theories most closely imply a relational nature of the universe. Observer physics just seem to violate too many laws of, it supersedes laws existing in some sense. Even it seems like it can. Yeah, you jump over whole swaths of equations when there's an observer and you just do those equations. Hey, thanks so much. David Solomon, newest Duck Pond member. Hugely appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's awesome, guys. Yeah, what a great way to support the channel. Memberships are huge for me. Thank you. Bam, bam. Yeah, I'll have to check on those emojis. Maybe I can get some nice ones, but you got our sort of first batch of politics and duck emojis. You got the Mick Belief. You've got the art series ducks. So congratulations. Thank you. Thank you as well. Appreciate the support. Yeah, memberships are one of the, Almost High is a member, I believe, or was a member. And so, yeah, joining, even if you guys want to join membership for a month, show off the green name badge and things like this, it means a lot to me and it means a lot to the channel. House of Mirrors Terrace says the power of the observer has to supersede the belief in energy pools of others for themselves. Yeah, so I do think that's related when we think of if there's philosophies of mind, or if there's something like a mind, those relationships operate in that sort of same capacity that we relate to things, we relate to others. To me, hearing supersede always implies almost this id type sort of relationship. It's very interesting. Yeah, cheers. Anytime, man. Yeah. Um, yeah, this is Jamaican castor oil. That's what's on my forehead too. Castor oil. Yeah. Bam, bam, bam. Ow. Ow. Yeah. We should use our intuition, I think. I think using our intuition about observation. Does observation really change the outcome of reality? Observation is the reason there's outcomes in reality. Yeah. There wouldn't be outcomes. There wouldn't be a collapsing wave state without it would be an evolving system. So the reason we have now moments of now that look like turning on a lamp, turning off a lamp, starting up a car, turning off a car is because of the physics of the observer. Yeah. Speaking of ego and id, what's the consensus on Freud's work? That's something for you guys. Yeah, that's something. Primacy and order exist? That's a really good question, Cameron Foster. Um, I would not. I would not. Yeah, because to me it would seem that we would sit like an ontological ladder or something um, next to each other, and because this is what we're talking about between relationships and order, and so so to me it would seem that at this level, um, yeah, to me it would seem at this level we're talking about reaching something that maybe has to be self-referential to explain itself, right? It has to be self-referential, and yeah, and there's no reason to believe that there's anything so recursive or so law oriented, if that makes sense. Like an analogy for this, one analogy I would very softly I would use an analogy and say that well, um, so if uh, Bill and Brittany both like Coca-Cola more than Pepsi, and you ask why they like Coca-Cola, and maybe they're both experts on Coca-Cola and Pepsi, but they create an explanation, and for some reason, Bill and Brittany relating themselves to explanations has to be the primacy of order, right? So it's because Bill and Brittany give you a list of things that they want to do that we relate things in this way. And then some would say, well, Bill and Brittany are still talking about a list of things you can study and observe in the world in a way that is beyond how humans normally communicate topics. And so there isn't something ontological about order or primacy, things like this. The order is about the ontology itself. It's the idea that, well, Bill and Brittany can be Bill can be drunk, Bill or Brittany can be intoxicated, Bill or Brittany could also be using their brain like a doctor. Um, you know, they could be all these different ways. They could be considered a subset of brain parts and things like this, which are a subset of cells, which are a subset of other carbon life and genetic codes and things like this. So yeah, you've been talking for the last 5 minutes and have literally said nothing. I hope I said a lot. I hope I said a lot, something useful or interesting. Yeah, my shirt got cut off. My shirt got cut off. ML, good to see you. Yeah, no more shirt here. Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing the opposite of the spiritualists who just sit and meditate on camera. I'm just going to keep talking. I'm just going to keep talking and be my own favorite celebrity. Chop, chop, chopped. You didn't hear chopped. would it be fair to say you believe in a chicken and egg cycle? I would understand the criticism. I would understand the criticism that we don't even have a cause of something like cellular life or mitosis, meiosis, or even the like gene splicing, things like this. Packaging and preparing genes to split. Forming, like whatever there are, like cytoplasmics and things like this, but whatever it is, I would understand saying that we don't have a reason to talk about those things if humans don't talk about those, or if there's not a mind those things are conceived within. So I do understand that. It's a very useful line. If anyone's been following me and Cam's dialogue, it's a very useful line to, I think, understand a little more deeply why that criticism exists. That, yeah, if you don't have a mind to conceive of something that you don't even want to say is a cause anyways, because it's not fundamental, then it's not cosmological. So someone can just say, well, this is why we do object-oriented ontology. This is why we have ontological arguments about metaphysics. So hello from Russia. Hey, what's up to Russia? Shout out to you. Good to see you. I'm talking about the ontological primordial thing, not the historic. Sorry. Oh, okay. Oh, I don't know what ontological thing that would be necessarily. From like a Hegelian view, from like a Hegelian. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so like it would be like a mental thing though, right? For you, this would be it'd be a mental thing. It would be the mind that makes other conceptions possible, is the way to sort of soothe that out, right? I need another decade to grasp this. It sounds crazy to me. Bow bow. Bow bow, bow bow, bow. Bow bow, bow bow, bow. Yeah. Yeah. Right. But I don't see it as that chaos. Yeah, maybe that's a good point. Is why is it total chaos? Why would it be the case that a metaphysics that requires a being or a mind that makes more mind possible? It makes more beingness possible, or it makes beingness have a quality like we normally describe, right? I'm a human, so I drink coffee. I have an average IQ. So what we go and talk about then is that, well, these things have to have a beingness that enables that to be possible. But it could just be that we exist in a world that's like that too. That's the gambit of a worldview, I guess. And so having even our the way our mentality can perhaps choose to relate or choose not to relate to choose to relate or choose not to relate to this sort of metaphysics. I don't know. Yeah. Nice. A solid 110 is, man, more than enough, right? More than enough. More than enough, folks. Oh, like there's like that sense of a primordial. Um, that's a tough one. I think therefore I am. Yeah, I like Aaron's. I like the Cartesian skepticism, Cartesian doubt. Yeah. All things come from being. I don't know about that. I just don't know about it, to be honest. Ow. I'd have to get up and stand up. Sorry. Does incognito imply? Oops, sorry. That was intense. That was an intense standing up look. Very rude. Hmm. Hmm. So my question about the primordial, I guess just a very common sense starting point is why don't I just see myself alongside something older than myself? If I were to see myself alongside something slightly older than myself, primordial, it's a state that precedes it. So what is it? What is it that makes that perception close to reality? When I can just say that, well, it is the case. Our best knowledge says that the universe is made of stuff, that atoms and things like this. Without presupposing too much worldview, but we know atoms get smaller. We know that particles can get smaller. That energy can be used for different things in the universe. That it's a system. This is just how we describe it. So why is it an accurate perception is something that I would ask. But this doesn't negate the fact that I think it's possible that there's justifications for a primordial state. I don't know what those are, right? You'd have to inform me what justifications exist for that primordial state. Doing my skepticism due diligence first, and then secondly, the second thing I would try to introduce slightly as well is I would say my own view, my sort of own take is that yeah, creating I don't my own worldview is I don't know why I'd be creating opposition between other sort of modes or essential qualities in existence to introduce this idea of the primordial in a sense that has perhaps more meaning, unequal meaning with other terms or concepts. Existence doesn't imply order. In judgment, where does that judgment come from? Wow. Yeah, that's a great question as well. That's a great question as well. Um, perhaps existing in an energetic state that is subjective. There seems to be subjectivity, but subjectivity is just also about there's not homeostasis, right? It's energetic. So you could say it's maybe energetic or without the inductiveness. It's there's qualities about it. I don't know. That could be my guess. The fact that there's qualities in existence in metaphysics, qualities seem to emerge up. Emergentism, qualities seem to be the thing that some people base their existence and reality on. Tarot might be a little closer to Cameron's worldviews, and in this case, in some sense, the family of theories, the families of beliefs seem to be next to each other a little more so. Yeah, nothing can be said that doesn't imply order. Judgment itself is order. Yeah, get on up here with it. Yeah, good point. All right, guys, I'm going to do my last small coffee refill. Just a reminder, if anybody wants to join memberships, gifts, memberships, jewel gifts, super chats, any of it, anything small, large, super helpful. Thank you, guys. All right. Yeah, let's yeah, good luck to Aaron. Anybody who's at work or has got work later today, shout out. Thank you guys so much for your hard work in society. Thanks for being you. Lots of appreciation and stuff like that to you guys. Yeah, huge ups to you. Yeah, you guys can always let me know what I can. You tell me what I can do better for you and stuff like that. And I try to integrate feedback and be appreciative of you guys there too. How can there be an existence then? Yeah, another 1,000-ton question. Yeah, we are in Stimland. We're in Stimland with all the coffee I'm having right now. We must be. We must be. It must be. It is. It isn't. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, we're not doing Patreon yet. I still feel like there's more value to be had. Video essays and stuff. I got some really nice compliments on the work I've done on some of the videos. I like the perpetual piece, the Kant one, the ones about political opinions and beliefs and where those are introduced. I'll still link those out. I guess I can, not that I need to, but yeah. I should just make a playlist or a watch list or something like this, a public one. Let's see what's up. Hey, Jenkins. Probably exactly the color you would guess and expect them to be. Yeah, it's the exact color you would expect them as. Reminds me of when I went dumpster diving for food. Yeah. Hey, tough guy. Yeah, hard as nails. Yeah, shout out to you. That's one of the reasons you're spoiled. You live in America. Yeah, that's one of the. Yeah, man, I need to apply for like restaurant jobs or something pretty soon. So wish me luck, guys. Yeah, I'll take any of it. I'll take any of it. Wish me luck. Um, I do a good job on everything, and then if you pray for people, yeah, pray for it, man. I'm telling you, I'm not better than anyone else. I'm not out to take anyone's job. I'm not out to make $1 million, but yeah, I got to get some income coming in just like everyone else. So, I'm looking for jobs and stuff. Yeah. I know it's YouTube, but whatever. I'm sharing it with you guys. I suppose I'll end it here, but my issue is that how can there be being without that being separate from the primordial, and how does that not itself order those things? Because if things don't exist alongside each other, then there's no relationship to any of that. Yeah, there is no, if there's just one thing, if there's something that's like who knows? It's not, you don't even have a reason to say it's like a monad or something, but if there's just one thing and we treat it like a monad experimentally or mathematically, but it doesn't exist with any of the other things alongside itself, or it does, and it does follows the same laws, then, it's one of these things. You are chasing cloud. I am cloud chasing. You are out to do everything you are saying not out to do. Hey, I think you're accusing me of something that I haven't, I don't even understand it, but like, what am I trying to convert people to be to be a certain religion or something like that. Yeah, go on. Go on. Fish and Charlie, what's the difference between a lentil and a chickpea? I never paid to have a lentil on my face. Yeah, both great grains, high protein, nice cheap food. They slimed them, man. Yeah. Great food. People say it's the best. All right, guys, I'm going to close this stream down now. Thank you guys so much for all the help today. Thank you to everyone that donated. I appreciate it hugely. We'll see. Maybe I'll do a stream later today. People working, chilling, whatever. I'll see you guys around, and I'll catch you guys again soon. Thank you guys so much. Take care. Thank you. Thank you.